All right. Last training session before the Saturday. John Brzink's going to be in town, which is pretty cool. Never met him in person. I'm in Utah. Trying to work on my inside game. I saw this wrap method on Brian Shaw's video with Devin. I haven't taken a lot of Devin's lifts, workouts, but I actually like this one for inside. I haven't really focused on hooking or inside game, but I feel like I'm actually better there than top rolling. So I need to work on it. I need to get stronger, especially my elbow flexor. I feel like that's the first thing that goes when I get into a hook match and I lose. So what's on 10? So 100 pounds, but it's a pulley, so it's not really 100 pounds. So you can see I have the strap just around my thumb, so when you wrap it, all the pressure is coming on the outside of your hand, so it's hooking, supinating instead of the top. Oh, I think I need to make my strap hoop longer so that I can start pretty much here from supinating instead of having to pull it. Oh man. I've been really focusing on my cupping and my supination so I can sink a hook. I've been watching a lot of videos recently on just the technique of how to do it because I wasn't having any success before, because I was literally trying to just, without moving my elbow, I was just trying to turn their hand in like this, and that is like, unless there is a significant strength gap in your supination and cupping to be able to bring them in, not gonna work, not gonna happen. So there's really two things that I'm doing. One is what I just did, working on my actual supination. Then the other one is going through the loop, just my full hand, and just straight side pressure like this. I really feel this is helping my elbow flexor. I'm not doing a lot of like, you know, reps down to the string. I just like holding it. I feel like it's benefiting my tendon, connective tissue. Because when you just hold it like this, it's not so much your muscles kind of locked into place because you're not actively moving. So it's going to be stressing your connective tissue, your tendons, ligaments, whatever. But I've noticed I have been getting stronger and better. And the other thing that I realized when I've been hooking more recently at practice against guys that I would usually lose to, I'm winning more often now. So when you both sink a hook, you got to continue to cup as much as you can. So you'll both sink in like this, right? And you know, you want to try and get as high as you can. But at the same time, if you're focused on constantly cupping, constantly bringing them in, it's going to force their arm more open like this, which is a much weaker position to be in. So when you sink a hook, continue to cup as hard as you can, because it'll cause their arm to get opened up more, and then it's just on the bicep to go down. So I feel like after a year and a half of arm wrestling, my body's finally starting to be pretty comfortable and accustomed to these different pressures on ligaments and tendons and joints that never really had this kind of pressure before. I don't really get elbow flexor workouts doing powerlifting, strongman style stuff. All right. If this feels good, I might up the weight one more. Again, after this workout, I'm done for the week, so I can be somewhat fresh for Saturday. Just for the other guys that show up, obviously not for John Brzenk. He won't even be able to feel me. Those guys are at such a level that I can't even comprehend. But a lot of guys from my practice are going. I can have fights with them. I can have battles with them. Yeah, I'll raise the weight up a little bit. 110 pounds. Oh man. You know when you feel pumped and you wish you looked like what you felt like? Feels like a pump, like you see these massive arm wrestlers when they flex their forearm and it's just super veiny and massive and bulging. That's what it feels like, even though it's like half the size. That's not too bad. I should probably go heavier for this one since I'm just holding it. Obviously, with going inside, hooking, you know, being strong in the elbow flexor, because that's what's gonna, you know, that's what you use when you hook. You pull inside. It's also important your back pressure, because the entire time, right, you're not trying to push their arm this way. And again, unless there's a huge strength gap, what you're really trying to do when you're inside is you're trying to open up their arm so that your arm stays like this and their arm starts opening, and now it's on the bicep, right? So along with that is you're always pulling back towards you, because the further towards you get, the closer you get, the tighter you get, the stronger you get, but also the more opened up they're going to be. And the more open you are, the weaker you are normally in arm wrestling. So forget about where the pad is, right? You don't have to touch the pad to win. You just got to go below it on the winning side. From their wrist up, if any of that goes below it, doesn't matter if it touches it or not, just has to go below it on the winning side, right? So when I pull now, it's always, the focus is always on coming back to me and coming down. Doesn't matter if I'm going towards, you know, the pin pad or not. Now when you top roll, it's easier to go that way just because of the, you know, mechanics of how your arm works when you top roll. But when you hook, it feels best and it's easiest to just drag straight back to you. Don't worry about trying to go to the side, just straight back. Again, there's much better videos, better people to learn from than me. Still very new to arm wrestling. You know, Devin Larratt, Todd Hutchins, tons of guys from Europe and that part of the world over there making tons of videos on technique and how to work out. So I really like Brian Shaw's philosophy. If you follow him, his recent videos, he did a Q&A where he basically talked about, a lot of people are like, oh, Devin's style pulling isn't good for you, so don't listen to what he says. But Brian basically said, I'm going to take from him what I need to. Even Devin told him, my style is not necessarily how you should be training, how I train. So that's the same philosophy that I've taken, with the exception of when I'm actually polling live and Bob Brown is walking around. There's very few people that are going to be better to learn from than Bob. So when he walks around practice, he doesn't focus on trying to teach people, but sometimes he'll walk around, he'll give you little hints or tell you what you're doing wrong, and those I've found to be the most helpful. So that I take with a much bigger grain of salt than what I find online. But I've taken a lot of things, a lot of lifts, a lot of different arm wrestlers, their YouTube videos, their techniques, styles. You got to take, see what works for you, right? Take it back to your training. If it feels good, if it feels right, if it matches your style of arm wrestling. Everyone has a slightly different style of arm wrestling, so you gotta really find out what plays to your strengths, what translates best to the table, because it's going to be different for everyone. Everyone's proportions are different. Everyone's mechanics are a little bit different because, different strengths in the hand, the wrist, the forearm, the bicep. You have different proportions, and that's going to play a big part, especially when it comes to levers, right? If you have a shorter arm versus a longer arm, workouts are going to be different. They're going to be harder. They're going to be easier. They're going to work you differently. So just to find out what works for you, what translates best to the table. And so far, for me, this is what's translating best to the table for me, at least as far as inside pulling goes. Well, that's it for inside pulling.